Swami Premananda, Baburam Ghosh, was born in December 1861 at Anpur, 30 miles from Calcutta. His father was Tara Prasanna Ghosh and mother Matangini Devi. They were both pious, well-to-do and devoted to their family deity, Lakshmi Narayan. They had one daughter, Krishna Bhavini, who was married to Balram Bose, the devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and had three sons, Tulsiram, Baburam, and Shantiram. We find him first meeting Sri Ramakrishna when he was around 20. Though he appeared much younger, he was very good looking, about 5 feet 8 inches tall and rather slim. In the beginning, he visited the master only on holidays, so that his family could not think that he was neglecting his studies. During these visits, Ramakrishna recognized through his yogic vision that Baburam had been born as a part of Radha, the spiritual consort of Sri Krishna. On June 20, 1884, the master said to M, quote, "I noticed the other day that Baburam has a feminine nature. In a vision, I saw Baburam as a goddess with a necklace round her neck and with women companions about her. He has received something in a dream. His body is extremely pure. Only a little effort will awaken his spiritual consciousness." On another occasion, he described Baburam as Nitya Siddha, ever perfect, and as Ishwarakoti, godlike soul. The master earmarked 6 of his disciples as Ishwarakotis: Narendra, Rakal, Baburam, Yogin, Niranjan, and Purna. The master said to him, quote, "Yesterday I came to know Baburam's inner nature. That's why I'm trying hard to persuade him to live here in Dakshineshwar. The mother bird hatches the eggs at the proper times. Boys like Baburam are pure in heart. They have not yet fallen into the clutches of Maya." About Baburam's purity, the master later said, "He is pure, pure to the very marrow." Baburam was deemed a proper attendant for Sri Ramakrishna because of his absolute purity. He was one of those fortunate souls whose touch the master could bear during samadhi, and many were the occasions when he was found supporting the master in that state, lest he should fall and be injured. Later, Baburam said, "Sri Ramakrishna was the embodiment of purity. A man earned a lot of money by taking bribes. One day, this person touched the master's feet while he was in samadhi, and the master cried out in pain. During the master's samadhi, we had to hold him so that he would not fall, but we were afraid. We thought that if we were not pure enough, then if we touched him during samadhi, he would publicly cry out in pain. So we prayed for purity. It was the master's grace that I was allowed to live there in Dakshineshwar." Sometimes in 1884, Baburam begged the master for samadhi. Ramakrishna consoled him, saying, "All right, I will ask the Divine Mother about it. Does anything happen by my will?" But Baburam insisted on samadhi. He then had to return to Anpur on business. In the meantime, the master expressed his concern. "You see, Baburam wept much and asked for samadhi before he left. What will happen? If it does not happen, he will have no regard for the words of this place," meaning Sri Ramakrishna. Then he prayed to the mother, "Mother, please grant Baburam a little ecstasy or other spiritual experience." The mother replied, "He will not have ecstasy. he will have knowledge. This relieved the master to some extent. Baburam failed in his entrance examination. A few days later, he came to Dakshineshwar Vaikunta, Sanyal. Baburam was much afraid of what the master would say. When Vaikunta told Baburam's bad news to the master, he made light of it. Sri Ramakrishna said, "Well, that's very good. You have failed to pass. Now you are free from all pashas." That in Bengali, pash means a noose or fetter. So with Baburam's formal education was at an end, his spiritual education began under the master's guidance. He received his mother's approval and began living at Dakshineshwar permanently. The master said to M in front of Baburam in 1885, "I've been seeking one who has totally renounced the world. When I find a young man, I think that perhaps he will live here, but everyone raises some objections or the other." Baburam nor his family had any objection, and the master had called him Daradi, the companion of his soul. Living with Sri Ramakrishna was a great education and a great austerity also. He taught his disciples through his life, not merely with words. Baburam watched the master day and night and imbibed a spirit of renunciation and purity. If the Holy Mother was in Calcutta, Premananda would ask her permission to go anywhere to lecture. In 1914, Premananda was invited to speak during the Ramakrishna festival at Malda, North Bengal. He came with the devotees to Udbodhan to receive the mother's permission. But she refused it because Premananda had been sick only for a fortnight before. When the devotees importuned Holy Mother about the trip, she asked Premananda if he wanted to go. He replied with great emotion, "What do you know? What do I know, mother? What do I know, mother? I shall carry out your order. If you ask me to jump into fire, I will jump. If you ask me to plunge into water, I will plunge. If you ask me to enter into hell, I will enter. What do I know? Your words are final." At last, Holy Mother gave him permission, but she asked him to return soon. To the devotee, she said, "You see, they are all great souls. Their bodies are channels for doing good to the world. Look after their physical comfort and ease." One time in Malda, Swami Premananda gave a lecture, "Serve human beings as God." He emphasized Vivekananda's Karma Yoga, practical Vedanta, and concluded that the religion of this age was to serve. While he was lecturing, a gentleman repeatedly interrupted him and asked him to speak about love and devotion. Premananda ignored him. The man repeated himself over and over. Premananda said, "Who will listen to love and devotion? I don't find anyone here who is fit to listen to it." Then the Swami continued, "Listen to a story. Once a hawker was calling out, 'Who wants to buy love? Who wants to buy love?' People opened their front doors and inquired about the price. The hawker said, 'Price? It is priceless. But I can sell you this invaluable love in exchange for your head. Are you ready to give up your heads?' The people immediately shut their doors. Then, pointing to the audience, Premananda said, 'Is there anyone here ready to give up his head? That is the ego.' Everybody kept quiet. That was Baburam Maharaj, direct, and also because he was trained by the master, he was meticulous in his work, and if anyone infringed upon anything, they got a huge scolding. A brahmachari was told to mow the lawn And in those days, there weren't lawn mowers. You had to do it with that sickle. And that poor boy cut his finger, a mistake, inadvertently. And Babu Maharaj got so annoyed. He said, I told you to cut the grass, not your finger. Take that money from that manager and get out of the mud, cross the river, and go. That was his. He was perfection. And he wanted everyone else also to be perfect. Because Swamiji had said, I leave East Bengal to you. And he frequently went to East Bengal, preached there, lived there for many months at a time. But that broke his health. So in 1917, doctors diagnosed it as Kala Azar, a malignant fever that was difficult to cure and frequently fatal. During the rainy season, the climate of Belur Math was not good. So he was taken to Udbodhan first and then to Balram's house for treatment. Sometimes in April 1918, Premananda was sent by his Calcutta doctors to Devgar, a health resort in Bihar. There, he expressed a desire to meet a famous yogi, Balananda Brahmachari of Devgar. When this news reached Balananda, that yogi himself visits the Swami. Observing Premananda's physical condition, Balananda said, quote, Sir, if a monk does not have any attachment for his own body, it does not last. If you kindly bring a little attention to your body, it will be cured. End of quote. Premananda replied, You see, I don't have any attachment to this body. Now, I look upon it like a rotten pumpkin. So my mind does not go to it at all. End of quote. While leaving, Balananda said to this attendant, his body will not last now. During this time, that is in 1918, there was a worldwide pandemic called the Spanish flu. And many people had died. Not many, millions had died in India and all over the world. Premananda caught this deadly flu. When the sad news reached Belur Math, Shivananda went to Devgar and brought Premananda back to Balram's house. Dr. Bipin Bihari Ghosh, Premananda's cousin, examined him but did not give up any hope. His bed was made in the upper hall. Brahmananda was staying in the next western room and Turyananda was downstairs. Turyananda had surgery on his legs in Puri, so he could not walk. Premananda wanted to see him, so two monks carried him on a chair to Premananda's room. Turyananda sat on his bed, held his hand, and both looked at each other. What a scene! Tears began to trickle from their eyes while both remained silent. When Sharadananda from Udbodhan arrived, Premananda said to him, You know, Sharat, I have a great desire to put on a cloth of pure yellow and to eat rice white as jasmine. Sharadananda understood this is the symbolic description of Radha, the aspect of God of which Sri Ramakrishna had said he was a part. Sharadananda knew then that Premananda would not live long. On Tuesday, Premananda's condition deteriorated. Brahmananda was gravely pacing on the veranda and engaged his attendant to chant hymns near Premananda. All of a sudden, he carried a picture of Sri Ramakrishna to Premananda and said, Brother Baburam, please look at the master. Brahmananda tried to suppress his own tears by pressing a cloth on his mouth. He then left the room. After a while, Brahmananda returned again and said loudly, Brother Baburam, do you remember the master? Premananda opened his eyes, looked with a smile at the oil painting of the master hanging on the wall, and saluted him, and with folded hands, he uttered deeply, Grace, 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 kripa, kripa, kripa. And he passed away. It was 4:14 p.m. on Tuesday, July 30, 1918. His body was taken to Belur Mutt and cremated there on the banks of the Ganges. As we know, Swami Brahmananda and Swami Premananda were studying in the same school and were classmates rather. When the news of Premananda's death reached Holy Mother in Udbodhan, she cried bitterly. She told the devotees, Baburam was dearest to my heart. All the energy, devotion, and wisdom of Belur Mutt were embodied in my Baburam. And he walked there and lived there on the bank of the Ganga. Brahmananda cried like a child and then remarked, Belur Mutt has lost its mother. M said, Sri Ramakrishna's love aspect has disappeared. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.